Well, good morning, everybody. You're tuned to Computers 2K Now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Nick, your host for the next couple of hours, but have no fear, our fearless leader, Mr. Amnon Nissan, is also alongside. Good morning, Amnon.
Good morning.
And
How you doing?
I'm good. Spence is also here.
Good morning. Yeah, Amnon's in prison. We don't want to talk about it much.
Yeah, well, he's quarantining, so he.
It was. They came in a helicopter and they picked him up.
Yeah. We won't be able to take phone calls today, so if you want to join us, throw your message in chat, and we'll get to those. Today's show is made possible by vMix Software, by DudeInIT.com, and sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. Well, Amnon, I guess we need to go over to you first. Why am I hosting the show today? You're having some major technical issues.
Major. I mean major. Yesterday I started vMix. That's the software that we are using for
Turn yourself up a little bit, please, if you would.
Turn it more.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this better?
Yeah, much gooder.
All right. The software that we're using to stream and didn't want to come up. Tried it again, didn't want to come up. Everything else is working, but this program didn't want to come up. I reinstalled it, didn't want to come up. And going into File Manager, it was acting funny also. So tried different things, but the first thing was to back up that drive to right there and then. I do have backups, but this was important to do that. So I cloned it and put it on the side. Restored it to previous. I got in touch with Nick. I got in touch with Gal to get ideas. Nick and me spent probably until about 10 something in the evening to try and solve the problem, but it sort of like got from bad to worse, and finally it got a little bit better again. I mean, we got to the point where every time you bring it up, whether safe mode or not, blue screen.
Well, it was interesting because it originally looked like the issue was something, as you mentioned, with vMix, but as we started digging into the computer more, there seemed there was issues. You know, if you open up File Explorer, it loads up and it loads all the stuff on the left and it loads the quick access. We would open File Explorer and that top blue progress bar would take 30 seconds before it would load File Manager. That's obviously not normal. So it has to be something with the OS.
And it wasn't doing it every time. This is why I'm still saying there's something wrong with the motherboard. Because if it's a driver, then it's every time. But I mean, there were times when I would go in and File Manager will be snappy and working just fine. And other times, like when I got used to it to be okay until you said, hey, there's something wrong with File Manager. And I looked and I said, yeah. That's how it was this morning when I started. So I definitely have a problem there.
It seems like there's something wrong with the Windows install. I mean, typically we looked at the blue screen codes and it was a C00 something, and it's a corrupted Windows install. US Rover says due to a Windows update. No, there wasn't an update. We did an update afterwards to try and see if that would solve it, but it just seems like maybe. How old is that Windows install?
Probably about 3 years.
Possibly a.
But wait a second. Now remember, this particular drive, was there with Windows 7 from the early days when it still had VidBlaster on it.
So it was an upgraded drive?
It's an upgraded drive and upgrade and upgrade. So Yes, there were, and there were some other problems with audio that it did not record right. Remember when I had all these pops
Yeah.
when it was recording, and nobody ever heard it. So that's it. Yesterday, I mean, after that stressful day, that's it. We a new drive, and then I'm thinking, okay, I've got another drive, put it in, and then what? What if it is the motherboard, the hardware that is corrupting the drive? I don't want to work twice and do it. So I say, well, maybe I should get another motherboard.
And you get to board diagnostics?
I did not get into that at all.
Try running the memory test. Just let it run overnight and see if you get any.
Yeah,
maybe you got bad memory.
The other thing that I did was not swapping memory, but swapping banks. Thinking, well, maybe that will do it, but it didn't do it either.
And this is a spinning drive. This is not a solid state drive.
This is an SSD.
Oh. Well,
Yep.
maybe you reached the end of life on the SSD. You ran out of places to write over when it had places fail, because it's an early SSD if it goes back that far.
It's a 500 Samsung.
Mm.
And I didn't think about this, and I did not. I mean, I cloned it to a spinning drive. I don't know that these, if it was running out of life on the SSD, other files will be corrupted. But the only ones that were giving trouble are vmix and the bull crap uninstaller. It would come up and doing everything, but then when it was gathering directories, like it goes and looks at all your installed programs, it was hanging on gathering directories and just freezing.
Or maybe
there.
just that portion that had the volume table of contents got corrupted, because then nothing will work right.
Spence, this is exactly what it looked like to begin with. It looked like the early days when there were the two fats, and one fat goes bad and it sits there and sits there and sits there, and then it goes to the second one, gets the info and comes back. So it takes forever.
Yeah.
And to tell it, make you think about that too. Starting vmix, let it sit there on the logo for about 25 minutes, 20, 25, 30 minutes. vmix will suddenly come up, but not completely. I mean, the whole screen will come up and it'll say, okay, now I'm loading the profile, and it would hang on this. I'm sure if I left it another hour or two, it may, because looking at the drive when it was doing it, hardly any activity. So it's
your Windows
What?
your Windows compatibility license for that solid state drive expired.
Nick
Didn't
and
pay the
Gal,
tax.
Nick and Gal were thinking that it's not a hardware thing, and I'd like to believe it, and I thought that was correct because it came up in safe mode, but still there was that doubt in the back of my mind. The drive is gone, or the drive controller is gone. And I mean, that machine was used on Monday for a show, and then just sitting there until yesterday morning.
That's because that single neutrino that was created at the beginning of the Big Bang finally made it, and at that moment went through the controller and destroyed one bit in the controller, and that was it. Perfect timing.
So, yeah, I mean, it's tough. These issues are super weird to troubleshoot. Because that's, and then you run into you run into the situation where Amnon and I were trying so many different things at a time, and realistically, you should only be doing one thing at a time. But the reality is,
Right.
when you're trying to troubleshoot, and you're up against a clock, which we kind of were, you start changing multiple things, and then you don't know what's actually causing it. But then when you got to the point where you were constantly blue screening, to me, that's a bad Windows install. I don't see any other. Yeah, I mean, it's possible it's the motherboard, but when I've seen motherboard issues or power supply issues or even RAM issues, they're somewhat persistent. Like, for example, if you've got bad RAM, you typically won't blue screen all of the time. Right? You'll blue screen sometimes, maybe you have some issues, but when you blue screen constantly, even trying to get into safe mode,
Right.
I don't know how that's the RAM, and it just seems like a botched Windows install, which, as you mentioned, being an upgrade from Windows 7 probably isn't impossible.
Well, it definitely was not fun.
No.
And I guess I'll find out, because I did not want to do anything with the clone drive, because that's the only good backup that I would have right now, the current. So I'm going to leave it. I'm going to do another clone today, and then I'll stick that drive in the old machine, which is a 4970 Intel, which is still good. And I may just stick it in the current machine, in the 8700, and see what it will do. I mean, maybe it'll work. Who knows?
Well, it's definitely an odd issue for sure.
Odd is yeah.
So what did you learn?
Nothing yet.
No, but I mean, you didn't take anything away from your whole experience. What would you have done differently?
I don't think I would have done anything different. I mean, there was nothing to do different. I mean, it's easy to say, okay, chuck it and put another drive, reinstall Windows 10. That's easier said than done when you have a whole bunch of programs that support what you're doing. But
So has this machine ever been clean installed?
No.
Recently?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's probably, I don't know, 8 years.
Well, I think then that's pretty amazing, because I don't remember any machine I've had that lasted 8 years and worked okay.
Well, I mean, now wait a second. I'm talking about the operating system.
No, I know.
The,
I know.
the drive has been changed. It used to be a
No, I
spinning
understand.
drive.
Well,
Yeah.
literally, maybe you got to some point where a driver updated and it just couldn't handle it.
It's
Or-
very possible.
yeah.
I know. And I know Gal sent me a program to check off all and update all the drivers. I really couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, that software. I know the software he's talking about. It's weird.
Yeah.
I've used it before. But we even, because Amnon's got some, he's got a capture card, a discrete GPU, a separate
Yep.
GPU, and even pulling those two things out, we were still getting some of those same issues. So, and with those devices not connected, those drivers are not going to load. They're not. There's nothing to initialize them,
Yeah.
so they're not going to start. So it's a very, very odd issue. But the show must go on, right?
To say the least.
Yeah. So the show must go on,
And it will.
and it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you're going to build that
Oh, yeah.
brand new i7 machine or Xenon machine from scratch?
I am not. No, I'm not going to build a new machine. I'm glad you brought it up. So I'm wondering if I should, Nick, get a Ryzen instead of just using a new motherboard, and if it came down to it.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Uh,
here's the thing. If you're going to replace the motherboard,
Yeah.
the 80, what do you have? An 80 what?
8700.
The 8700 is a CPU from 2017, 2018. So it's not old. It's not that old.
It's not that old. No.
But it is, they're up to the 11th gen I series now. So you're talking about a 4 gen.
Yeah, but you're talking about a lot of money too.
Oh, for sure. But if you're going to upgrade, here's the thing. In the next 2 years, probably, you're going to be ready for an upgrade, most likely, in terms of your processor.
Probably, yeah.
So if you're going to go and get a new motherboard and replace that, it might not be a bad idea to get a Ryzen 5 or a Ryzen, I don't even know what the current standard is. But the point is, it's not a brand new system. You are on the path for an upgrade sooner rather than later anyway. And I think you'll find that motherboard's a lot more expensive than you'd probably. Did you price out those motherboards?
No.
I bet you'd find out they're a little bit more expensive than you would have thought.
Well, I mean,
everything is a little more expensive than you would have thought.
Yeah.
To tell the truth, I mean, as far as being on the path to an upgrade, I'm not crazy. I don't need to upgrade to another processor. I don't need a faster machine. That machine is really, it's like in the 20s and 30% load when I do everything on it. So, and it's working great. So I don't need to update it like in the old days when, it's so if vMix becomes more of a resource hog, then probably.
At a minimum, you should just consider replacing the system board and keeping the processor. So then when you want to upgrade in a couple of years, you'll have a board that will accept the new processor.
That's going to be tough to find to get a board that's compatible with the 80. I don't know what the architecture of that is.
It's not backwards compatible.
Well, let's see. It's LGA. Let's see.
Yeah, it's LGA.
What is it though? It's LGA 1151. And I don't know what the current. Yeah, the highest thing you're going to get you could get an i9 that's LGA 1151, but that processor's $600.
Yeah,
so
that's ridiculous.
Well, it is, but no, Spence brings up a good point. The only problem is when you're dealing with those differences in ages, to find something that, to find something that's going to be. I see what you're saying, Spence. If you get a new board that you could use the backwards compatible and the new one.
Yeah. If possible.
That might be easier said than done. Because I'm looking at the LGA 1151, and you're talking about the 7th, 8th, and 9th gen. And you can get a Core i5 9400 for $183. That's an LGA 1151. So maybe that's the solution. But those motherboards will be $200.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try and see if it's really just just something with that a new OS install is going to fix. And we'll see. We'll take it from there. I don't know.
Interesting.
See if this will go.
Maybe go with a Ryzen Pro.
Yeah.
Huh?
Go with a Ryzen Pro. How many cores is your current machine? 8?
It's 8.
8. Yeah. So the Ryzen Pros are 8-core.
Dirtbag says, what's the latest Ryzen versus Intel? What's the best bang for your buck CPU? Currently, the best bang for your buck CPU is going to be a Ryzen.
Yeah,
currently.
Absolutely.
Now, Intel announced their new generation that's got their new kind of Intel integrated graphics, which looks pretty neat. But I've got a what I have. Let's see, my computer.
AMD still has the Athlon brand name.
For their low,
Athlon-
the same way that
Athlon
Intel
Pros.
still has their Pentium for some of their
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
low end stuff.
But it looks like the desktop processors, that the Ryzen Threadripper Pro is the top.
Well, yeah, you don't want it. You
Before you
definitely
get-
don't need a Threadripper.
No, before you get into the server.
Yeah, so I've got a Ryzen 9 3900X, which I've been very happy with, and it's a couple years old.
And it works.
Yeah, and it's an expensive CPU. I mean, I spent probably $600 on it at the time.
But when did you got it some time ago.
Yeah, I got it pretty much right after it came out.
Yeah.
It's an interesting question for sure.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to start with another drive and Windows and just put vmix on it and see, and then add things slowly. I just need to sit down and write down which programs I really need, because yesterday when I looked and I was going through programs to see if anything else would fail, I say, why do I have this? Why do I still have that? I never use this. Why is this here?
You still have Windows Bob? You still have Windows Bob on there?
No, he left.
You did. I heard he got deported. That's what I heard. His real name wasn't Bob.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it some more. But in the meantime, listen to this. Scammers in a few big Texas cities have been putting fake QR codes on parking meters to trick people into paying the fraudsters. Parking enforcement officers recently found stickers with fraudulent QR codes on pay station in Austin, Houston, and San Antonio. San Antonio police warned the public of the scam on December 20th, saying that people attempting to pay for parking using those QR codes may have been directed to a fraudulent website and submitted payments to a fraudulent vendor. Similar scams were then found in Austin and Houston.
Oh, they're just entrepreneurs.
That's a great
The-
scam to run.
It's amazing. That
No,
is
I'm being
amazing.
dead serious. I mean, that is a phenomenon. You talk about something that we've all become accustomed. QR codes have been kind of the norm for a few years, but you really saw it pick up over the last 2 years or so. I've never second guessed, and we've talked about this before. I've never second guessed scanning a QR code. I don't know if you guys have seen this yet. The payment processor NCR, which is really popular and really common. A couple of restaurants that I've gone to recently, they give you your check, and you can scan a QR code at the bottom and pay it directly from the table instead of giving your card to the waiter or waitress and having them do it, which I find to be super convenient. I'm doing that 100% of the time now. There's no reason to wait. You just pop it, it pulls up the NCR, NCR Silver payment thing, and it's good to go. But I don't think I'd second guess scanning a QR code on a parking meter. I mean, here they don't have QR codes. It's a number, and you use an app called Pay by Phone is the one that's in this area. It's in Wilmington and Wrightsville Beach and Carolina Beach. This Pay by Phone app, but that's a Spence said that's a really good scam to run.
It's clever.
Well, you at least with gas scammers, they have the company can tell you, and you can get educated to the fact that, okay, if you see such and such on in something that looks funny with the credit card slot, be careful, because it may be a, what do they call it?
They put a skimmer over it.
A skimmer.
A skimmer, yeah.
But see,
With this, it's a sticker. Sticker is a sticker is a sticker.
well, and it's funny you mentioned the skimmers, because with the places that I go for gas, normally Circle K or Costco, they've got the touch readers now. The fast touch reader. So I don't even use my card. I just use my phone with the wallet. So that scam is probably less lucrative. I'm sure most people aren't paying that way, but I almost always do my payments by phone on my iPhone now, which makes that impossible because I guess you could put a fake, I don't know how you'd put a fake generator like that. That seems very, very tough to implement.
Yeah.
The scammer is a little black box that slides over the real one. It still processes your payment. You still get gas, but the in-between thing grabs your numbers.
Yeah, it processes it twice, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. So you still get your gas. It's not like you keep going in, you can't get your gas. Yeah. You assume that there's no problem at all, which makes it, that was a really good scam too when that was running.
I have some friends who are traveling recently and were at a gas station, and guy pulls in next to them with a trailer and starts chatting. My friend went inside and his wife is out there putting the gas in the car, and this guy starts chatting up his wife and comes around to look at their license plate, which is very weird. And so he comes out and challenges the guy, and the guy got all kind of defensive, and he RFID skimmed their card and put, because he gets a call from the credit card company. Did you just put $150 worth of gas in at this gas station? The guy had a big trailer with a truck. He stole their card.
Wow.
At a gas station. Just what we had some type of an RFID scanner that pinged the chip on the card, or he somehow stole. I don't know how he would steal it from the actual pump itself.
Well, I can tell you why he was looking at the license plate. Was it in North Carolina?
Yes.
You can look up somebody's license plate and get their zip code.
Yep.
It's precisely why you would do that.
Probably. Yeah.
You can look up their license. You can look up their driver's license and you figure out where their address is registered, and you assume the credit card or debit card is registered to the zip code of the registered vehicle.
I've always said if people would just put as much energy into doing things honestly as they do fraudulently.
Yeah.
Well, you can go on eBay and buy a
skimmer.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at. We looked at these a while ago. Now eBay seems to have gotten rid of some of these, but you can. They're not. I mean, you're talking a couple $100, a relatively low barrier to entry to get one of these, RFID skimmers and go from there. It's not that. I mean, the QR code one is going to become a real problem. And Alan asks a question. He says, wouldn't those who have control over the implementation of QR codes have a way to trace and stop those codes? The answer is no, because the QR code is just it can't be updated. It's a single, it is a unique, identifier per code. So there's really no way to stop it. There's no way to shut it down. Right. It's, I don't even know if the word open source is the right word to use, but a QR code's a QR code. There's not really a licensing authority behind it or anything.
And it's not something that's copyrighted that they would know. Yeah, was coming out of here. I mean, you can print one on your printer at home and cut it and stick it somewhere.
Absolutely.
Now, it is, I don't know if somebody really went to investigate it, they'll be able to find out where the information went to, but I don't think these guys are stupid enough.
Well, but here's the thing. Google, if you go to Google and just type in Google has a QR code generator where you can just go in, paste the URL and click generate. Now, obviously it could be tracked and traced, but there's not a licensing authority. There's not a central repository. There's no, the codes aren't stored anywhere. They're unique to the URL that is inputted. So there's really no way to do anything with it, which makes it really tough for anybody to crack down on it. There's no QR code central database where you can go in and see who generated a code when and where. There's, from what I understand, that's just not how the QR stuff works.
Hi, I hope I'm properly in. I know I'm choppy. I have zero control over that.
You're not using your microphone.
I am.
You're on your webcam mic.
Yeah.
No, the webcam is choppy. The microphone should be okay.
It is not.
It is not the micro. You're using the microphone that's on the webcam. Wow, you're home and it's really, I mean, it's your internet, or is it your computer?
It's not the internet.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope this is better.
Now,
Better, yeah. There you
that
go.
sounds better.
You're back. Did some guy come to your house with a jumpsuit on that said cable company on the back and come in and make some changes?
That's my favorite episode of Seinfeld, where Jerry gets shot by the FBI for for having the Russian guy install the free cable.
Hey, Spence.
Hey.
You reckon this is Larry in the chat? Hammock?
Oh, I gotta look. Let me look.
Oh.
So
Now-
what's with the QR codes?
It
Wow,
could be.
Gal, your video is very choppy.
Don't watch me. Don't look at me. I'm horrible.
I won't look at
Your
you.
audio's super low also, Gal.
Audio.
Sorry to be a pain.
No, I think I know where that's coming from.
And
Hold,
I mean,
hold on
Go ahead.
before you move away from that. John says, can't they just focus on the websites? They can,
There-
but what do you do?
who focused on the website?
Well, you could have the authorities focus on the websites, but that's
On who?
not. But
on
again, that
Google?
now, how do you deal with?
There is nothing illegal about offering a QR code generator.
Correct.
And I would like to think that no website will just turn information about QR code generators to the authorities about everybody that does it. Most people do it for legitimate purpose. It's very small number of people that, so I don't know that would work.
What's the source? What's the original story?
About QR
Like-
codes being on parking meters in Texas that send the funds to the scammers, to the fraudster.
I mean, there's nothing about. It's the same as with the phishing email. You just
Yeah.
need to. There's no. It's not going away.
No, it's not going away, and it is next to impossible to find them. They just keep on hopping, I guess.
It's a very ineffective hacking tool because it relies on physical location.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but I
um,
mean, the point here is that it's very easy to install. It's not like a skimmer. It's a sticker. You go to buy gas, you pump $1, you get to the pump, like you putting your credit card in, and you just stick another sticker on top of the existing QR code. So it's, I mean, you know, with the other skimmers, it's a little bit more involved than this.
And John says, I mean the website that the QR code points to.
Oh yeah, they
You could do that, but now you're into the same thing. If you're a bad actor, if you're a criminal, if you're trying to scam, and I mean, I guess technically you could go down that rabbit hole, but you're likely going to be doing it somewhere out of the United States. You're not going to be using PayPal as your payment processor. You're probably going to be using some sort of European or one of these payment, like, for example, you can go to these weird websites and buy really cheap software and things like that. They all use kind of a weird payment processing system to do that, because those companies don't comply to authority requests and things like that. So now if you're a really stupid criminal and you're not thorough about it, oh, I'm sure you can get your ass busted real good. But I would assume the majority of the people that are actually doing this are.
Yeah, that's kind of a natural selection thing. That stupid criminal only gets one chance. And that's it.
Look,
oh, gee, I screwed up. Let me keep perfecting my trade as a criminal. He's, if he's that bad, that he's going to get caught.
If they put it on a busy station and they put a few pumps, I mean, one day is enough. So
Interesting.
I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting.
I haven't seen any panhandlers like at the end of an exit on a road hold up a QR code yet. So it hasn't made it that far down.
But here's the thing: QR code inherently is not, as long as you know what you're paying for. A QR code is a great way to take payments.
Yep.
And that's the weird thing about, that's the odd thing about this story, is that, like, for example, if I was having I'm trying to think of an example where I would use a QR code. Let's say I was at a bar or something, and I was doing like a football pool or something like that, where you collect like $5 or $10 from somebody for a football pool. I could easily print out a QR code and just have somebody scan it and it take them to a PayPal link or something of that nature. So, if you know what the QR code is, like you said, a panhandler, instead of taking cash, it's a great way to get people somewhere. A lot easier. And John says, you just have to be carefully check the website it sends you to. That's the key right there. It's no different than anything else.
Nick, I see a business opportunity. We could set up a clearinghouse where we provide panhandlers with their own QR code and we get 10%.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yes, it would come up. Yeah, that wouldn't even be a clearinghouse. You'd be a middleman. You could be like the Avon lady for QR codes. Go get a bunch of people around and say, "Ooh, wow, look at these QR codes. Look at this." And if you buy 5 of them, and then you can sell 10 of them to your friends, you can make a whole bunch of money. I see a good multi-level marketing scam here, Spence.
That's it.
Yeah. It is going to get worse. There's no question about it. And the last 2 years have, I think, really opened people up to the notion of, in society is inherently trusting, right? The reason that just in general, society is inherently trusting. You trust that when you go and do something, that both people are, the person you're doing business with is trustworthy. So the system just works because of that inherent trust. And as soon as some of that stuff starts to go away, which, there's always been bad actors, but as this becomes more and more lucrative and that goes away more and more, I think you're going to maybe see a little bit of pushback on just stuff like that. But society's inherently trusting. That's why scams like this work.
Yeah. Yeah, we like the convenience, and we like to believe that everything is okay.
Because it is normally. Most 90
normally, right.
99% of the time it is.
Absolutely.
So very interesting.
All right. So talk about fraudsters. Here's another one. The FBI warns U.S. companies in a recently updated flash alert that the financially motivated Fin7 cybercriminals group is targeting the U.S. defense industry with packages containing malicious USB devices. Remember when years ago people will find USB thumb drives on the in a parking lot and take it in and plug it in and get infected. The attackers are mailing packages containing bad USB or bad Beetle USB devices with the LilyGo logo. I don't know what's that LilyGo. Commonly available for sale on the internet. The packages have been mailed via the United States Postal Service, and United Parcel Service to businesses in the transportation and insurance industries since August 2021, and defense firms starting with November 2021. So they are sending shipping. Now, talk about tracing. That you would think, okay, if they shipped it with UPS, there must be some way to find out who sent it. Yeah, I don't know. But if you get a USB drive from somewhere and you're not expecting one from somebody that you know, I wouldn't plug it into my machine. No way. It's just makes no sense to do that. And yet people are doing it in business.
Of course. Again, why are people doing it? Because you inherently trust that if somebody mails you a USB drive, that they're not going to try and screw you over. That's what a lot of this comes down to, for sure.
Yep.
You can buy the Beetle bad USB drives for $20 at hackergadgets.com. Yep, it says that it's got a built-in, the processor can emulate multiple different types of USB modes and do inject keyboard presses or whatever you want to do. Just plug it in and automatically, boop, there it goes. Load the software, enter these commands.
I've arguably, we do a little bit of gaming stuff here from time to time. There was a huge, and when I say huge, I mean momentous gaming thing this week. Microsoft acquired Activision Blizzard, which is one of the largest video game publishers and developers in the world, for $70 billion in cash. Bought them out, which is now pretty much, for all intents and purposes, has not killed Sony, but now if Microsoft, who makes the Xbox, wants to go ahead and not allow those games on the PlayStation platform, it's going to put them in a really tough position. And Microsoft acquired Bethesda a couple of months ago as well. They're the developers of Fallout, id Software, Doom, Skyrim, and now with Activision, they've got the Call of Duty franchise, World of Warcraft, Overwatch. You're talking about some of the largest AAA games that are released, and Microsoft is really ratcheting down on their streaming service, or their not their streaming service, their subscription model known as Game Pass. Game Pass for PC and Game Pass for Xbox, and really owning this market. It's pretty remarkable. But a $70 billion cash acquisition shows that Microsoft is in it to win it, I guess, in the video game sphere.
They checked with the FTC before they did this. Everything's
well, that was the first thing. Because that was that's what I first started seeing was antitrust. But I think the gaming industry is too large. There's too many indie devs and things of that nature. I don't think an FTC thing will go anywhere. I guess it's possible.
No, I mean, when I was serious, I bet they probably tested the waters first.
Oh, for sure.
Before they did this. They're not just going to go ahead and do this and, sorry.
Yeah, so, $70 billion in cash.
Imagine, I wonder how many people work for Activision, how many people have stock. And I
think they were buying it at $94 a share. And that's how they came to the $70 billion price point, which Activision has been trading at sub 90, and even at some points sub 80 for the last couple of months because there's been some serious internal issues at Activision Blizzard. So if you're a big stockholder or an employee that's been there for years and has a bunch of stock, probably a pretty good payday at $94 a share.
Sure.
Now, let me ask you this, Spence, because I don't know if you know about this. So if Microsoft comes in and does this acquisition, Activision Blizzard will no longer be publicly traded, right? It'll just all be under Microsoft if they're doing a buyout?
It depends on the sale. If they're buying the assets, they can take it private. If it's publicly traded stock, they have to compensate the stockholders, and the stockholders have the chance to convert their stock to either Microsoft or some new stock that Microsoft creates.
But because they did the buyout, I don't think that's the case, right? If they're just buying everybody's shares out at 90, I think it's $94
and then they have the freedom to do whatever they want to do with the company, and they could just say your stock is still good. It's just now held by somebody else. So,
yeah, because it seems to me that Microsoft wouldn't want to keep this as a separate stock, right? There'd be no reason to. You just roll it into your Microsoft.
For tax reasons, it's better to just write it off and be done.
Yeah, so that's what they're doing. But you talk about a massive deal in the gaming sphere. This is the biggest acquisition in maybe 20 years. This is huge.
It's not unprecedented, and we've seen it happening in gaming industry, just to buy a company just to close their doors.
Yeah. Well, and
to eliminate competition. You think about that, how I can't fathom how that would be worth it, but it is.
Yeah. And in this case, the intellectual property, the IPs that are owned by Activision Blizzard, as I mentioned, World of Warcraft, Guitar Hero, Call of Duty, and these are some of the largest and most well-known video game franchises in the world. So for Microsoft to get this under their cap, and again, if I were Microsoft and Xbox, I'd say, okay, well, now that we own this IP, we're not going to make our games available for PlayStation. And they can essentially they can essentially cripple Sony's video game division with this. If that's what their goal is. I don't know what their goal is. We won't know with an acquisition this large, you're looking at least 12 to 24 months for a full acquisition for everything to go through. But they could essentially box Sony out of the gaming industry with this purchase if they wanted to.
Somehow doubt they'll do that.
They did it with Bethesda.
More advantages for them to figure out a way to capitalize on.
I would think the same thing, but when they purchased Bethesda, they announced that the new Starfield game, which is Bethesda's big upcoming space game, is not going to be released on the Sony PlayStation.
Yeah, but I mean, in the past, these sort of announcement of not going to be released usually followed by either a 6-month period or a year, and then it's released to that. So on day one, it's not going to be released to the PC and the Xbox and PlayStation at first, right? But at the end, they do. Now, whether it's important or not, I mean, that's for you as a gamer to say. I'm guessing it's really annoying, but
yeah. But
I get what you're saying, but have we seen a game that wasn't eventually released to all platforms?
Well, we have with exclusives, but here's the article right here from June the 13th when this happened. Bethesda's Starfield will not release on PS4 and PS5. Will not release.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a huge loss for the PlayStation thing. Now, I'm not sure that they will do the same thing with Activision because, as Spence mentioned, when you have a franchise that large, the amount of money that you can generate from sales on both platforms is huge.
Right.
But if Microsoft does truly, this could essentially shut down Sony's gaming division, and I don't think I'm being bombastic by that statement. Activision has so many popular IPs, millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of copies of Activision games are sold on the PlayStation. If those games are no longer there, as a gamer, you're going to be losing out on some of the largest games of the year. You're going to go and get an Xbox or play your games on PC now. So this could be Microsoft essentially putting the dagger into Sony, which I think has its. I'm a big Xbox fan, but I think that has its problems. You know, when there's only one game in town, which essentially would be Xbox and Microsoft, I think that creates problems within itself.
I would agree.
So, well, it's remained to be seen because it was just announced this week. But if we follow the Bethesda thing, if they choose to do this, it's game over for Sony. I mean, there's literally nothing.
They'll fix it. They'll just put up QR codes all around town. You can scan the QR code and everything. So you'll be all set.
So pretty massive. But a $70 billion acquisition is huge.
There's an interesting story that I won't spend a lot of time on, but I thought it was worth mentioning. And it's technology related, although the core of it is not. Did you hear about the YouTuber that crashed a plane?
Oh,
Yeah.
This is interesting. This guy who is known for doing outrageous stunts online, has a YouTube channel, bought a plane and was flying the plane and just happened to have extra cameras and stuff set up on the plane, and suddenly lost power and jumped out of the plane with a parachute. Plane crashed. He recovered the cameras and made it sound as though he had this accident happen. And he told people, the person he bought the plane from, about a month or so before the crash, he said, "Oh, I'm going to have something special planned for this plane." And he was supposedly on his way to go snowboarding somewhere, and was going to dump his friend's ashes out of the plane as part of the flight because his friend died. And it just reeks of being set up. And now the FAA and the National Transportation Safety Board are all over his ass and saying that he did this, he contrived this and did it on purpose. And so they don't take this kind of stuff lightly, letting a plane crash, no matter where it is. And you can look it up. All you have to do is just look up YouTube plane crash, and you'll find it.
what? And give him more views?
And that's what the person who wrote the article said. I do not link to his YouTube page, or even give you a lot of information, because we want to prevent him from getting too many clicks. But everybody that's analyzed this said, this is not kosher. This is not, something's wrong here. And but think about the arrogance of doing this and thinking, number one, thinking you're going to get away with it. and ruining a perfectly good plane. I mean, it must have been worth it to him to do that.
Hollywood does it all the time, man.
I mean, just imagine what this does to the reputation of the plane manufacturer.
That's true.
Okay, Now people are going to say, "Oh, look, he crashed. I don't know that I want to buy one." It's got a lot of
implications,
angles that people need to look at.
Yeah, and the fact that he was just you fly in a plane like this, you typically don't have a parachute, and he just happened to have the parachute strapped to his back the whole trip. Isn't that strange? I mean, you don't hear of this. And he has, like, when he jumped out, he made sure he had like 6 camera angles catching his jump. And so you know that, plus not to mention the ones that he had it on his body too, as he flew, and so it's like, yeah. I said, the funny part about it was, I said that he didn't try to restart the engine after it failed. He didn't do a mayday call. So these are all things you would do right away, to say where you were and what happened. I'm trying to restart the engine. Here's where I'm at. I mean, the fact that he could even jump out of the plane was amazing. It just doesn't happen. The only reason you would have to have a parachute in a plane is if you're a stunt pilot. If a plane is going to have an attitude of bank more than 60 degrees, it's considered acrobatic. And if you're flying acrobatic, you need to wear a parachute. So this is not an acrobatic plane.
Coincidence? I think not.
All right.
But I'm not sure I get why this is so annoying, though. I mean, this is just some guy doing some stupid shit over with a camera, So, and just because it's not real, I mean, there's a camera involved. It's automatically not real. So why is the assumption that this is like bad in any way? It's stupid.
Oh, no, it's illegal. It is very illegal. You cannot just decide to let your plane crash.
I would agree that it's illegal unless you're doing it properly, right? And
How do you properly
I mean, maybe
stage
he's
an
stupid
accident?
enough, right? Maybe he's stupid enough to not do it with the proper licenses, right? Because,
you can't.
as I said, Hollywood is doing it all the time.
Yes.
So
This is not the person you don't want to have. If you're a pilot, you don't want to have the FAA not on your side.
I agree.
Rules for flying the plane say if you're flying the plane and you actually lose power, you have actually protections.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with the video. That has nothing to do with his channel.
No, I'm
What
not
you're talking about
that.
is whether he's stupid and he did things improperly.
No, what I'm saying is the FAA puts a lot of respect out there for pilots because if you lose your engine, you're going to crash.
Okay.
And there's no
I know.
the implications against you. If you
Yeah,
have to
but you're
land your
going
plane-
you're going FAA on me. I say this has
Spence,
nothing to do with the
Gal,
FAA.
Gal, wait a
Gal,
second.
it has
Hold it.
everything to do with the FAA.
Spence, hold it a second. I think I know where Gal is coming from. What if the guy went up on the plane as saying, okay, I'm going to crash that plane and I'm going to take videos of it. So be aware that this is what's going to happen.
Still illegal. Still illegal.
No, hold on. Not illegal.
Gal would be like you saying, "I'm going to."
But
drive
Hollywood
my car
crashes
into
plane
this
all the
creek."
time.
Yeah, but
right?
there's a process you go through to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not illegal to crash a plane if you're doing it for a movie and you have permits, you have safety, you have things that you do with that. Absolutely. But you as a guy, it's like what Spence was just about to say. It's like you going in your car and just trying to kill and crash into as many people as possible.
Who decided that it's him as a guy? That's how he is framing it. That's how he's telling the story, right? That's what I'm asking.
The FAA has no record of any permit requested. The National Transportation Safety Board takes this stuff very seriously.
Agreed. So that's what I'm saying. So there's two ways to look at the story, right? And one is the way you're describing it, and that's the real question. Are the FAA really out of the picture? And if that's the case, then he's just a stupid idiot doing a stunt that he wasn't licensed
What do you
to
mean
do.
now? How do you mean out of the picture?
Like, did he involve them or not?
No.
We don't know.
Did not. He did not, because they wouldn't be investigating him if they did not. If he was part of
Okay,
it.
so that's the interesting thing. The FAA is investigating this stupid YouTube channel, and he's going to lose his flight license.
He's going to go
right?
to jail. Is what's
probably
going
Oh,
to
we
happen.
already lost it. He already lost it. There's no way they're going to let this happen. There's no excuse for this, and that you can just looking at it from a practical point of view, saying this was a setup.
You could charge him with
And
you
it
could
would-
charge him with some sort of terrorist intent. I mean, if
Oh, you can
there's
charge him with a lot of
plenty of
things.
things that he could be charged with. Is
'Cause
John
he didn't know you flying in the plane. You decide to jump out. You don't know where it's going to land. You just happen to be in a remote area, but
Well, that's
Yeah,
what
the-
that's what John just put a message in chat here saying. John said the crashing plane could have caused damage. Now, obviously, he did it in a remote area, but again, you look at potential terroristic things here. You taking a plane and just
yes.
dipping out of the plane is you can make the argument that this guy's a
And the
terrorist.
point I was trying to make about the FAA is that if you're a responsible licensed pilot and you're flying, and you have a failure on the plane,
which
right,
happens, by the way.
Which happens all the time, and the FAA gives you the benefit of the doubt. So if you have to land your plane on a highway, in somebody's yard, or you are actually protected because you can't put the plane down anywhere you want. You're limited to what you can do. So you as long as you take responsibility and do everything you can to avoid damage and loss of life, you're fine. You might not be able to get insurance anymore, but you're not going to lose your license for that because you did everything you could within your skill level to prevent this from happening. This guy didn't do that.
Well,
He threw that away.
On a big
So-
scale, you can look at the guy that landed the plane in the Hudson River. The FAA got all over his ass originally, and they made a movie about it, Sully, which was very good because they thought
Yeah, the investigation went on too long.
Yeah, because they thought that he had other options outside of landing it in the river, which if he had not landed it properly could have killed everybody on the plane. Once the NTSB started actually calculating that it takes 45 seconds to a minute and a half to determine that, hey, we're up Schitt's Creek here, they realized, oh man, this guy could have either plummeted it into the ground and killed everybody, or this was the best thing he could have done, and he ended up being completely exonerated. But they wanted to throw him in jail for that.
Yeah, they did. That was amazing.
And that was something that, I mean, he didn't purposely do, or he had what was a bird that got caught up in the engine? There was a complete engine failure.
It was bird strike.
Yeah, bird strike that caused that engine failure. And that Tom Hanks movie, if you've never seen Sully, is phenomenal. And it goes through the FAA I mean, it's obviously dramatized, but it's the full NTSB investigation, and it's amazing what this guy went through. He was a hero, and he got vilified by the NTSB and the FAA. They essentially said it was the most reckless in public hearings. This was the most reckless thing you could have done. It was unbelievable to watch.
Until they exonerated him, right?
Yeah, they did. But these investigations typically take a minimum of a year, and maybe longer, for them to go through, especially if it's a smaller, like this is a situation, a single engine plane. They don't have like infinite resources to investigate this, but they will eventually publish a report. It's fun because you can go look at reports of accidents that have happened over the years and you can read through the reports. It's amazing what they go through.
Well, that's why that show, Airline Disasters, I think it's either a Nat Geo or a Discovery Channel show. Yeah. They literally just recreate it based off of the NTSB investigations. Stuff's phenomenal. But yeah, very, very illegal and very dangerous to purposely crash your plane into the ground. But what does this really go to show you? How much money you can make off of YouTube. When it's worth buying a plane and then crashing it into the ground.
Was that to say this guy apparently in his head he calculated the value of this, and whatever the repercussions were not going to stop him from doing it.
The only thing I see, by the way, in the news articles reporting about this, the only quote considering the FAA is the FAA confirmed that AVWeb, that it would be to AVWeb, and that's the reporting news agency, that it would be investigating the situation and could not discuss it in full detail. This could be either one of two things, right? The marketing promoter, sorry, not the spokesman for the FAA didn't know about it, right? And it's just a blanket response, or they are going to investigate it. This hasn't been like an issue yet. Most of this reeks from a marketing prank of, hey, go see this video, right?
The FAA, I'm a licensed pilot.
I'm not. What I'm saying is, you're going to the technicality of flight. It's not about that, because if you are right, he's screwed, right? And there's no story there.
Spence, don't get too serious about this here, because we are not lawyers. But look what we're doing. We're giving him exposure that people are going to go and watch it now.
I'm going to go watch it right now.
Bottom line is, right? I mean, we are in agreement. If he did it unsanctioned, right? And it's unclear. Like, nothing in the news reporting has anything to show that it's unsanctioned or sanctioned. Either way, right? If he did it unsanctioned, then you're completely right. He will never fly.
You guys are amazing. You bring up a story, and you guys have turned it into this giant ball.
I know.
It's important, actually. This is really important.
Need to stop talking about it. Please.
Amazing.
I want to actually ask a real question here. So he's either screwed himself from flying a plane again. In exchange, right, we are talking about him fueling his views, etc., this is going to generate him money. So the real question, the way I see it, is if it is as you described, right? He crashed it on purpose without letting the FAA know, without doing it properly, and because that's the part that isn't clear, and we're assuming assumptions.
And an investigation will bring it up.
Right. So there'll be some investigation, and we'll hear about it later.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Assuming he cannot fly a plane anymore, you're saying one of the options is he goes to actually jail, right? He will actually be fined. Fined, I get. I'm not sure about jail because I'm not sure he injured anybody, right? So
I don't think he'll go. I don't think he'll go to jail.
right. So there's definitely like a monetary repercussion to this. Plus, he'll lose his license and probably will not be allowed to get a new license, right? So that much I get.
The reason I brought it up was to point out the ridiculousness of this and hope that something like this, if people understand what happened, are like outraged to the point of saying, "Why does this happen?" You know,
Right,
why are we
but
that?
listen.
Are
The
we
reason you
that
know about it
jaded?
is because you've been trained,
Are we
right?
that jaded in our attitudes about things? I pointed
Spence.
this out to point out the ridiculous. That's
Spence.
enough. We don't have to talk about it anymore.
Yeah. Good.
I
That's
mean,
it. Now,
I'm not
can
trying to
we
promote
go?
the guy.
Can we go to specials?
Yes.
Nick, are you ready with?
I'm ready to go.
All right.
I am
Yes.
ready to go.
And actually, I've actually started to see, well, it's been a couple of weeks since I've done specials, but I have to say that availability of products seems to be getting a little better from now with what we're hearing about supply chain issues. It's pretty amazing, but I'm starting to see, for example, Brother printers again. I had to try to find one for a friend a couple of weeks ago, and I went to a couple of different like Staples and Office Depot, and it was really, really hard to find a Brother printer. They had a few out of when they normally have 7 or 8 different types, they had two different kinds. One was an inkjet, one was a laser, and only 2 of each in the whole store. But it's looking better. So take that for what it's worth. All right. So starting with, today we're going to cover Staples and Office Depot, Office Max. We've got a Lenovo IdeaPad i3 for $399, which is $170 off. We've got an HP 24-inch all-in-one desktop with an i3 for $569, which is $90 off. Actually, I recommended this to my aunt down in Florida. She is in a retirement community that has a library, very nice library actually, and they do have one machine that's available for doing all their library accounting and QuickBooks or Quicken and all this other stuff. And it was getting pretty old, and I had upgraded it to Windows 10 and it was kind of slow. So this is the one I'm recommending that they get for their library. We've got HP Core i5 laptop for $529, which is $100 off. Got another Lenovo IdeaPad Pentium processor. This is an entry-level machine, but it is $190 off. It's $279. That's a deal for it. I mean, a Pentium processor. It's probably not a physical 4 cores, but logical 4 cores. A decent machine, and this is also a Windows 11 machine. So that's a good deal. Got a 22-inch HP monitor for $115, which is $14 off. Sales on Amazon Fire Stick and Roku Ultra. We've got this, and there's more than one version of Fire Stick. The Fire Stick 4K is for $29, which is $20 off. They do have the regular Fire Stick HD for $19.99 instead of $29. Got the Roku Ultra $4,800 streaming device, 4K HDR, for $69, which is $30 off the regular price. Seagate One Touch 2 terabyte external hard drive for $69.99. I've got this is you, Amnon. You're going to buy up this 10-pack of USB sticks and sprinkle them across parking lots throughout the Raleigh area.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, actually, this is pretty good. 32 gig USB 3.0 drives. And it turns out, what does that come to per drive? If it's $99 for
$9.99.
yeah, so $1, $9.99 each, or 32 gig. You might be able to on sale find it a little cheaper, but 10 pack, save $20. All of the Amazon Fire tablets are on sale. And this is a mid-range. You got the 8-inch one here. They have the smaller one, the 7-inch, and they've got the 10-inch ones all on sale. So you can get the 32 gig Generation 8-inch tablet for $44.99, which is $45 off the regular price. And I think the 10-inch one is like in the $60-something range, which is quite amazing. Seagate Barracuda spinning drive. Here you go, Amnon. This is you should build that. You'd build your new machine on this 2 terabyte spinning drive. Abandon that flash technology. It's just, it's a fad. It's never going to stay, never going to last. So $52.99 for a 2 terabyte spinning drive, normally $65.
Isn't that a 5400? The green?
I think so. I think you're right. It's what used to be called the, what did they call that originally? The slower drives.
Whatever.
There was a brand name they had, and I had a couple of them. I had 1 terabyte 5400s. Not to be used for, scientific calculations, obviously, but good for storage. Netgear Nighthawk Mesh Wi-Fi 6 system, the AX 1800 dual band, 3-unit system for $249, which is $50 off. There's a lot of mesh products out there. There's a lot of knockoff mesh stuff out there if you go on Amazon. But I've never installed Netgear. I've installed several Google. Works very well. I have not installed the very latest Google stuff, but Google is certainly easy to do. It's easy to manage with an app on your smart device. But for $249 for a 3-mesh system, three base station and 2 remote system, AX, that's a pretty good price. Got a Linksys MaxStream AC 2200. Sorry about that, my phone. AC 2200 tri-band wireless router for $99, and that's $100 off the regular price. Got an Epson. I was talking about printers before. It's hard to find a printer even close to $99. Remember how you used to be able to get inkjets $39, $49, $59, basically loss leaders to get you to buy, to promote them having a continuous stream of cartridge sales. But Epson EcoTank ET2800 all-in-one for $199, regularly $249. And we've got a Brother DS640 portable scanner for $99, which is $10 off. That's all at Staples. Moving to Office Depot Office Max, HP 14-inch laptop. This is an don't remember what this is. I didn't include all the information there, but this is the entry-level laptop, $249, normally $279.
Pentium 2.
Pentium 2? Yeah. No, so
does it have MMX support?
No.
That's it. MMX,
well, then I'm not interested.
Definitely. Yep. Real Space Magellan pneumatic height adjustable desk for $329, which is normally $499. Remember when this was all the rage, height adjustable stuff? They had either the table itself would go up and down, or they had a stand that would articulate up and down that would sit on top of the desk. I wonder if this is still a thing, but they're still out there. HP 17.3-inch Ryzen 3 laptop for $449, save $65. Got a Dell 15.6-inch Core i5 for $569, which is $200 off the regular price. Got an HP all-in-one Ryzen 5 for $629, which is $135 off. And this is the cheapest printer I could find. Now, granted, I don't look at 2 sites, but this is the cheapest printer I could find today. Was this HP DeskJet Plus? It says DeskJet. Okay, yeah. So DeskJet Plus 4140. Color inkjet for $109, and that's the regular price. That's not a sale. But it looks like it does have a sheet feeder and a scanner built in. So it isn't all in one. Brother 2550 DW wireless monochrome. There were several versions of this same form factor available. This was the cheapest at 183. There were a couple up in the 225 to 250 range, newer models. This is an older model. There's nothing wrong with it. It does have support for printing directly from smartphones and so on. So it is up to date. It just isn't the very latest model, but just install one of these for someone. Very happy with it. 183. Brother inkjet printer, all-in-one, MFC J89895 DW duplex wireless for 139. That's probably the best I've seen on a Brother inkjet or any inkjet from any printer from Brother since the whole supply chain issue started. We've got an Element 27-inch monitor for 169, save $30, and we've got the 22-inch version of this for 119, and that's $30 off. A Logitech MK270, which is it's kind of the entry-level keyboard, wireless keyboard and mouse combo, $27. That price is back to what it always was. So for a long time, you didn't see a lot of Logitech stuff either in the store. Now they have all of their different keyboard models are now available again. TP-Link Archer AX 1800 Wi-Fi 6 router, $99. Great price to enter into the AX market. If you have a small house, an apartment, you want to get into AX, this is the way to go, $99. You can take these if you have 2 wired locations in your house, where you can plug in one of these on either end of your house. You can turn on a fast roaming mode feature where these 2 routers will talk to each other and do fast handoff as you move through the house, kind of like a mesh. And you can do it on the cheap, but you have to have them wired. You cannot use them as a satellite access point. It has to be connected through Ethernet. A Linksys MaxStream tri-band MIMO gigabit. This is a AC router for $99. A lot of good features on it. The fact that it's tri-band for streaming and so on. But you do, again, have to remember to have an adapter that supports these functions. And finally, some more Logitech stuff available and on sale. Logitech C92 920S Pro HD webcam, $59.99, which is $10 off the regular price. And we have a special on parachutes. If you want to do YouTube videos and it involves a parachute, you can order a parachute from us. Only $39.95 delivered to your door. And there we go. So that's the specials for today. It's already the 23rd of January. That's incredible.
Well, thank you, Spence.
2022. You're welcome.
Again, we don't have our call-in functionality today, but if you do have some comments or some questions, you can go ahead and throw them in the chat room on the website, and we'll get to those here over the next little bit. All right, Mr. Nissan, what else you got for us?
All right, let's see. Here's something that people that have their own websites need to be aware of. Dozens of legitimate WordPress add-ons downloaded from their original sources have been found backdoored through a supply chain attack. The backdoor has been found on quite a few sites running the open source content management system, WordPress. The backdoor gave the attackers full administrative control of the website that used at least 93 WordPress plugins and themes downloaded from Access Press themes. Are you familiar with these, Nick? Did you ever hear about Access Press themes?
I have not. I'm sure I've used them at some point.
The backdoor was discovered by security researchers from Jetpack, the maker of security software owned by Automatic provider of the WordPress.com hosting service and a major contributor to the development of WordPress. In all, Jetpack found that 40 AccessPress themes and 53 plugins were affected. So if you have a WordPress site that I'm sure if it's hosted on WordPress.com, then they'll take care of it. But you need to see if you have any plugins or themes from
AccessPress. Yeah.
AccessPress. And if you do the website, then you need to take care of that. If somebody else is doing it for you, you need to take care and let them know about this if they're using any of that. That's bad news. You know, again, like we said that with the QR codes, we'd like to think that when you go to the manufacturer or to the author's website and download a plugin directly from them, it should be good.
But doesn't this this kind of goes into the conversation we were having a couple of weeks ago, right before Christmas, or maybe it was during Christmas, about the what was it called? Log.js?
Yeah, Log.js.
Where you had a bunch of
Log4j.
a bunch of
Log4j.
Log4j, a bunch of legitimate software that uses that as its as a part of it, as a repository in its software that has the backdoor. And I'm sure it's the same thing with this. Some sort of core feature that these plugins or themes use, somebody's found that backdoor. It doesn't mean that the plugin is malicious or that it's bad. Well, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that there's a backdoor that is being used as a common denominator in some of these plugs and add-ons, which is the unfortunate part of using, you know, WordPress is great. Lots of, you know, millions of plugins, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of themes, open source, but that also comes with its disadvantages as well, which is what you just mentioned.
Yep.
Interesting.
And another cyber attack here, targeting a contractor working for the International Committee of the Red Cross.
Oh, Jesus.
Has spilled confidential data on more than 515,000 highly vulnerable, quote unquote, people, many of whom have been separated from their families due to conflict, migration, and disaster. The Red Cross did not name the contractor, based in Switzerland, which it uses to store data, nor say what led to the security incident, but said that the data comes from at least 60 Red Cross and Red Crescent national societies. In a statement, the international organization pleaded with the attackers not to publicly share or leak the information given the sensitivity of the data. So they're trying to cover. I don't know what hackers are going to get out of I mean, this is the lowest of the low, really. I mean, not the hacking and asking for money or whatever, or publicizing something is not low, but from the Red Cross about highly vulnerable people, that is, I sure hope that some authorities are going to get involved here and maybe catch somebody.
I've got a story here. Netflix once again is raising their prices for both their U.S. and Canadian subscribers, up $1 and $2 a month, depending on your plan. The standard plan, which allows you two simultaneous streams at, I believe, standard definition is what the standard plan is now $15.49 per month, nearly $16 a month. I believe when Netflix first started, it was $10 a month. So it's up $6 from where it originally was.
$8.
$8. Okay. And so now it's up to nearly $16 for that. In Canada, it rose from where it was at $14.99 Canadian to now $16.50 Canadian. Their shares went up on the announcement of the price hike. But I just, and it goes to their second plan, which is their Ultra HD plan, which enables 4 streams at HD, is now $19.99 per month. So $20 a month for that. They do still have their basic plan, which is 1 stream, standard definition, and that is now $10 a month in the United States. So the price of Netflix, Gal, I'll ask you this. You're kind of a bit of an alt media guy. At what point do they price themselves out of the market? I mean, $20 a month? That's high. I mean, my internet service is $60. That's a very high price to pay.
That's high, but their banking, first of all, their competition is charging as high.
True.
Or more.
When they started, they didn't have any competition. They defined the market, right? And every competitor that tried to enter the same space has positioned themselves always above what you pay for Netflix, right? So I'm guessing is they feel confident that even though they'll lose a few subscribers, it's not going to stop the increase of subscribers.
Well, and it's amazing because you would think that everybody that wants Netflix has already signed up for Netflix, but they expected their analysis came out between October and December of last year, so a 3-month period. They added 8.5 million new signups in a 3-month period. Yeah. Netflix is not new. Everybody knows what Netflix is, but they gained nearly 9 million new subscribers. They have over 222 million subscribers to their service. That's remarkable.
And keep in mind that if at the beginning you could use, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 5 devices at the same time, right? Now they're limiting to 1 or 2 devices, and you can buy additional the rights to play on additional devices. So it's they're working within the confines that they know that they can work within.
Let me ask you this.
Other than good for them and bad for us, I have nothing to say. It's like...
How much is too much, though? At what point do people start reevaluating the cost? I mean, it's
at
the only...
no point whatsoever. The consumer will continue consuming as long as it's available. There'll be less consumers, but more price. I mean, look at Apple, right? They're always pricing themselves way above what they should, and people are buying it.
On their laptop side,
the same thing.
On their laptop side, I agree. On their cell phone side, not necessarily. I mean, you look at the flagship Samsung is almost as expensive, if not more expensive than the new Samsung Flip.
Because Samsung figured out they can do the exact
same thing. I just the old analogy is the lobster boil, right? You slowly turn up the heat, and if you have Netflix on auto draft or auto pay, and it's $13, then it's $15, then it's $16, you're not going to notice that. But as it gets towards $20, $21, $22 a month, at some point people have to. I think people are going to reevaluate.
Look, while it's true that there are some people, right, who won't notice maybe a month or 2 months or 3 months into the increase, people are not stupid. People will notice, but people are willing to continue to pay.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line. That is consumerism. That is how specifically the U.S. market works, right? In the U.S. they can keep increasing it, and I am telling you, they will keep making money.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the gift card thing, where you get this gift card and you don't realize that the money on it expires, and it goes back to whoever created the gift card, and people don't realize they're not. Have you seen the app that are out there now for tracking your subscriptions?
Yeah, I keep hearing one of them advertise. It's a national company, and they advertise
Oh, I
with
see
us.
that they're on Instagram all the time.
I don't know what the name is,
Advertising,
but you
yeah.
essentially use them, and you cancel the subscription through them, and then they go to bat with you, or they go to bat against the company on that.
True bill.
There must be
True
a
bill,
marketplace
it's
for it. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Privacy.com seems to be a good way to handle that. If you're just create cards for each service, and then when you want to cancel, just cancel the card and they can't charge it. So, but I guess if you've got, realistically, if you've got Spotify, YouTube Premium, Netflix, Hulu, Paramount, Disney,
Plus.
ESPN. I mean, if you could get up to a dozen or a dozen or half a dozen subscription services, I guess it probably does get to a certain point where you do need some sort of centralized place to manage that stuff. I don't know that I'd use a specific company to do it when you can, manage it yourself with specific credit or debit cards and an Excel spreadsheet. But I mean, I guess you could make the same argument about TurboTax, right? You can go and download the IRS tax forms from the IRS's website, and they're not that complicated to fill out if you just have a single W-2. But you do, which is all I have, but I still pay TurboTax $35 a year to do my taxes. So
I wonder if the bulk of people use credit card payment, recurring credit card payment, or recurring bank draft.
It's probably, well, it depends on the service. Like I know, like Duke Energy and like more of those services, they'll charge you a fee to use a credit card versus a bank draft. Because it's, I mean, your mortgage company, for example, I don't think you can do that on a card. I think that's a bank draft.
Verizon, they charge you more per month if you don't get on their auto bill.
Yeah, and
it pays for your bank account.
Yeah, because they're passing on the the 3.25% or 3.5% credit card processing fee.
No, they actually prefer you do auto pay on a credit card.
Yeah,
but
because they make more money on it.
Yeah, they just don't want the scrutiny of paying, or waiting for a payment. They want to control when the payment comes in.
They have cash, they have a cash flow problem. They got to have that money.
I'm trying to think.
Every month.
The only thing I have on auto pay is my trash and Spotify. Everything else, I think I pay manually.
Yeah, we do electronic banking for most everything, but we have to consciously go in every month.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Because that's the way you stay aware of what's going on.
Yeah, but they make it really lucrative, and it's again, as I mentioned, if you started off paying $13 a month and it just takes out of your debit account or whatever every month, you're probably not going to notice that slow increase until it gets to a point where you're like, Jesus, where'd all my money go? And then you realize you're spending $300 a month on subscription services, which is not outlandish. That can be very realistic.
All right. Go ahead.
I want to talk about 5G because I am super confused with what's going on with 5G.
Nothing to see here. Just walk away.
So the two major cell providers, AT&T and Verizon, have for all intents and purposes already rolled out their 5G. And it was late last week or maybe early this week that yet again the FAA and the FCC is coming out with these claims, which I have yet to see any evidence to prove it, that the 5G, which is on the C-band, that it's going to cause issues with the
radar. It was a radar band.
Yeah,
before, right?
but
C-band.
Yeah, and there's these thoughts that 5G is going to, U.S. airlines say that it could cause catastrophic disruptions. It's yet to be seen.
Already, certain airlines have banned certain planes coming to the United States, and it's not trivial. I mean, it's something on the order of 30 or 40 flights a day coming from foreign countries where they're using planes that they feel are specifically vulnerable, and they're not flying those planes anymore. I would like, how could this have gotten to this point without really figuring this out? That's what I.
Well, and I think that's why if I was AT&T and Verizon, I would be beside myself, because it's not like 5G has not been something that's been talked about. And I mean, the FCC sold off this spectrum to the cell phone companies for this purpose, right? They didn't just
years ago.
Yeah, they didn't
ago.
just pull this out of their ass and roll out 5G. The FCC sold this spectrum to the cell providers. They've invested. And by the way, I'm no lackey for AT&T or Verizon. I mean, their prices are ridiculous. They can go pound sand for all I care. But they've invested hundreds of millions of dollars into this 5G infrastructure, and I have yet to see any examples that the FCC or the FAA or NTSB has pulled up to show that this is actually an issue. And these CEOs of AT&T and Verizon are freaking pissed, and they should be. There's no evidence to support that 5G is going to affect planes. 5G is rolled out all over Europe. There's been no issues of planes crashing into the ground or exploding on impact because of issues with radar or telemetry. I call bullshit.
All it does is shut down the credit card readers on the plane so you can't buy drinks.
Yeah, and so as of right now, the airlines have asked AT&T and Verizon to shut off their 5G transmitters that are within 2 miles of busy airports, and they've also urged the federal government to ensure that 5G is deployed except when towers are too close to airport runways until the FAA can determine how to safely accomplish this. And that's my frustration, is they've been building out 5G for years. Why did the FAA not deal with this prior? They already have put up these towers. They've already done the backhauls. They've done everything. How did this get to this late stage in the game? And
you remember when we first heard about this was when this was first proposed, it was all the weather radar people that were pissed.
Yeah.
Because they said, you just took away all of our equipment. We have to redo all our stuff because they're selling off these bands that we use for weather radar, because the bands that they used were very, very well suited for what they were doing.
Yeah.
And they had to go you have to find other frequencies now, and you got to build all new equipment. And you got to go through all the stages of placing that equipment in a way that it doesn't disrupt other communications. And then, but the main reason the concern is there has to do with landing and taking off on instruments, because there are apparently, supposedly, this is the argument, instruments on board the plane that 5G could interfere with if they were coming in and landing under what they call minimum conditions to land, which is where you have to be able to see the ground within so many feet. And you typically can't land when it's completely socked in. There are times when it happens by emergencies, but you have to be able to break through to see the ground when you're 500 feet over the runway. So they're coming in and they're using these landing aids that use some of these frequencies. And it's that's what they think is under ideal conditions, you're not going to run into a problem because you're landing. But most planes have auto land, and auto land uses this system to land the plane pilot just flip a switch on auto land and sits there with his hand on the yoke just to make sure nothing goes wrong. So
but that's my thing, is I don't understand how it got to this point.
I'm just absolutely stunned by it too, but there's got to be more to it than meets the eye here.
Yeah. And maybe this is just, I don't want to make it political, but maybe this is just the slow turning wheels and the slow turning cog of bureaucracy, because again, no surprise, no secret. This was not done, with no pun intended, under the radar. Everybody knew this was happening. Everybody knew the frequencies. I mean, they went in front of the FCC back in 2015 to buy this spectrum and start doing this rollout. I think the FAA is full of shit, frankly. I think they're trying to make a mountain out of a molehill, because again, in Europe, where 5G has been rolled out for a while now, there have been no examples of telemetry on planes, or what's the system that calculates your distance from the ground, Spence? What is that
altimeter
called? Yeah, your altimeter. That's the big concern.
And that's what Joe's
altimeter
comment was, that it affects the radio altimeters.
But does it? Because we haven't seen any evidence of it. I mean, not that I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's I think why the cell phone companies are so pissed off. Is it just seems as if could it affect the altimeters? I'm sure it could. They're radio waves, but has it affected the altimeters? Not that we've seen. I mean, if you've flown into a major airport over the past couple of years, your phone will have said 5G. Airports were some of the first places to get 5G. So I have no freaking idea what the hell's going on.
It's interesting because
here's the story. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just a comment about altimeters. There's two different types. There's kinds that work on air pressure, and that's the kind you have to constantly calibrate. If you're coming in to land at an airport, they'll tell you there's usually a repeated radio message about the airport to say, set your altimeter to this many inches. And that will mean that your physical altimeter will match the pressure at the airport, so you know it's accurate. A radio altimeter is not limited by that. It's electronic. It doesn't care what the weather conditions are for it to give you an accurate reading. So that's why they're so much better. And that data can be pulled into navigational software and used for emergency collision avoidance and all kinds of stuff that isn't, that a physical mechanical altimeter can't.
All right. So here is the story that I just saw that goes how Europe rolled out 5G without hurting aviation. It says major international airlines are canceling flights to the United States over aviation industry fears that 5G technology could interfere with crucial onboard instruments. But it's business as usual in Europe, where the latest generation of high-speed mobile networks is being rolled out without a hitch. Why is there a potential problem in the United States, but not Europe? It comes down to technical details. And they're talking about why, let's not get into this because we're not building anything. But obviously, if it's done right, then it can be done without hurting the aviation, the business.
But I think my concern is, you said it a couple of times in that article, could affect this, could affect that.
Yeah, right. It's good. Yeah.
I would have assumed, and maybe this makes me an idiot, or maybe it makes me an ass, because that's what happens when you assume, but I would have assumed that the FAA, the NTSB, and the FCC would have looked into this stuff prior to these companies developing all of it. And that's the part I don't understand. This had to have been tested in a lab.
That's it, Gal.
Nobody told them about it. They didn't know.
Yeah. You know what?
Yeah, but
Alex Jones was right. 5G is 5G is the devil. Alex, I tell you what, every time I cross a corner and a new news story comes up, Alex Jones has been screaming about 5G for 5 or 10 years, and here we are, and he's once again vindicated. Infowarsstore.com. I don't know what else to say.
Look what they did in England, in the UK. A year or so ago, where they were blowing up 5G towers.
Oh yeah. The crazy people are blowing up 5G towers. Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Well, maybe they were right. Maybe they need that a little bit. Maybe we need more of the Weather Underground group from the 60s.
Let's not do any of that stuff.
And Eleanor in the chat says could affect. The FAA errs on the side of caution. Exactly maybe right. They've been doing this for a while and it's still not right. And that I don't disagree with the claim there, Eleanor, but they already had a go live date for this. But
what's unusual here is that normally the FAA, well, if you go by history, is so anal about all this stuff. That
there was
things happen. I mean, you find out all the time planes still crash, and it's usually not just one thing that makes a plane crash. It's a cascading thing. A guy makes a bad decision, which leads to him doing this, which leads him to doing that, and finally the plane crashes. There's usually more than one factor in it. But how could they have missed this? Or how could they? Maybe they were screaming at the top of their lungs about it, and the people who were regulating the frequencies ignored them.
I mean, John is saying something that makes sense. He says U.S. using 1,585 watts, where the maximum power in France is 631 watts.
Very possible.
But-
Plus the frequency allocation. Who knows?
Yeah,
whether
but
that's different.
I also read something about that the FAA now says that 78% of U.S. planes can land in any 5G. That's how it went, or that 78% of planes can land, in airports without having to worry about it.
And I think they specifically mentioned the certain 777s.
The Boeing 777, yeah.
Some of them were vulnerable and some weren't. And the 787s, they said some of them were vulnerable and some of them weren't. Well, why?
Well, I can tell you this. If this goes on, because they were supposed to roll this out in November, it got delayed back to January. And then it's been pushed back to, I believe, February. If this continues to go on, do not be surprised if these cell providers don't go and have a massive lawsuit against the federal government in this, because they have, I mean, you talk about a loss of, not revenue, but a loss of, I guess you could consider it a loss of revenue with them not being able to turn these on. And they might be able to claim complete and total neglect on the sides of either the FAA or the FCC with this. So do not be surprised if there's no agreement that can be made between the FCC and the FAA and the cell providers, that there is not some serious massive lawsuits against the federal government from these cell providers. Because you could make the argument it's complete and total neglect. How could it have gotten to the point where they already have these transmitters up, tested, in place, and then the FAA goes, oh, well, there might be a problem here. That just seems like complete and total neglect. And obviously, we all fly. I don't want my plane to crash into the I don't want my plane to crash so that people can have faster internet. Don't get me wrong, but I have no idea. This is just it's the most bizarre story in the world.
It's a very big oops.
So yeah, somebody screwed up big time.
Well,
we need to skip it all. Just go right to 6G. Just forget about 5G.
Oh well, you thought 5G was going to kind of control your brain. Wait till 6G comes out.
Well, you'll be able to just put your coffee on your windowsill and it will heat itself up automatically.
Yeah, they're wireless. You won't have to pay for wireless energy, wireless light bulbs.
That's it. That's what's in the background. That's why I'm promoting Tesla with his wireless electricity there.
Yeah.
That's the original 5G tower in the background.
Interesting.
Built in Shoreham, New York, back in the 1930s.
Very odd story.
Here is something else. The Washington Post reports that 3 of the world's most prominent live streaming stars received notification of copyright infringement after broadcasting TV shows to their millions strong fan bases on Twitch. The days that followed produced copious amounts of Twitch's most common byproduct, online drama, but also focused attention on the murky and legally complicated question of what constitutes fair use of copyright material such as TV shows and movies. I never even knew that there was a legal fair use.
Oh yeah, it's been a debate for the last. It's as long as YouTube has been around. It's been a constant debate is what is justified as fair use, and there's never been a clear explanation as to what is fair use and what is not.
And you could always go and watch shows and movies on YouTube or on Twitch. I mean, the old stuff, but you could.
Yeah, well, the whole thing with fair use is, for example, if you're commentating over something, that's always been the thing of fair use. So if you play a minute clip from a news program or a news station, and you comment over it, that's always been known as fair use. You're playing it, you're giving it its credit, and then you're commentating on top of it. But there's there's been no clear. It's been a very murky gray area for call it the last decade or so, really, on both YouTube and Twitch.
Isn't there some restriction on how many seconds you can play an audio clip before it becomes a
Those
violation?
are based on previous court decisions and
something.
nothing
I remember
in the
that.
law.
Yeah, like you could play it up to 15 seconds or 20 seconds, and after that you would.
That was blown out.
But see, that's the thing is it's been such a murky gray area. There's never been a clear no the Supreme Court, no district or appellate court or judge. It's never been. It's because it's so case to case. You can't. It's very hard to set.
Nobody wants to touch it.
No, and I don't blame them. It's kind of meant to be a gray area for a reason. I think. Yeah. I mean, it's supposed to be. The question is who's the discretionary, right?
It's supposed to be based on intent, basically.
Correct. And intent is hard to determine. And what does YouTube see as fair use versus what does Twitch see as fair use? And then it comes into the fact, okay, well, what we do on this program with our audience on Twitch versus what one of Twitch's big pay pigs does in terms of their fair use is different. It's such a murky gray area with no explanation. And these companies, YouTube and Twitch, err on the side of caution because they don't want to have their asses sued by the copyright holders. But yes, fair use has been an argument for a very long time.
How does the difference between publisher and provider differ too when it comes to this stuff?
Yeah, none of those have ever been answered.
No.
So what happened? Did they get banned, Amnon?
They didn't say if they were banned. I'm sure they were, but I mean they were. It's a serious thing. It doesn't say whether they were banned or not.
They wrote them a stern letter.
If they were warned, then I'm sure Twitch will just will leave it in place, don't you think?
No,
because Twitch doesn't want to lose, and nobody said that they were doing something that is outrageously illegal. They just say, "Hey, stop doing this." Okay.
Yeah, Twitch.
They may stop. I don't know.
Twitch cannot afford to kick these people off their platform. They make them so much money.
Yep. And if you're buying a TV these days, or if you bought one, some Roku smart TV owners are seeing banner ads appear over live content, according to a thread on the r/Cord Cutters subreddit.
It was Gal that posted it.
Was me? Never happened.
A photo posted by a Reddit user shows a Sharp TV running Roku software and displaying an ad for a bid over a live sports broadcast, plus a prompt to press OK to get offer. These ads don't seem to appear on Roku's own hardware, like the Roku Ultra, Express, Streamer, or Streaming Stick. Rather, they show up on a certain smart TVs running the Roku TV platform. And it might just be certain brands like Sharp.
I have Sharp Roku TVs, never seen it, so don't know.
It says some owners of TCL Roku TVs commented that they had not seen the ads. Fortunately, users in the thread reported that the feature can be disabled in privacy settings, but it's possible that doing so may disable other Roku features.
So that is a picture of what was posted on the Reddit.
Oh, look at that.
So it looks like this is, if I had to guess, I would say this person probably has an over-the-air antenna connected to it, and that is popping up in there, which
it would annoy the hell out of me.
Yeah, but you can turn it off. Apparently, it's in the settings, which I mean, again, you might not agree with it, but if you have an option to opt out, I mean, that would piss me off too.
I wonder what do they state the model of the device? I wonder if on the box it says, you know, and it was like dirt cheap because of that.
It
Like
does
Amazon
not
selling their the Fire tablets, right, with ad content or without, selling it for a bit more.
I have another
So-
question about that picture.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, and I don't know how it works, but what do you do? I don't have a cursor on my TV.
You
How
don't need a
do I-
cursor. You just click OK.
Click on what? Oh,
on
I
the,
see.
on the
Okay.
remote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah,
Apparently, these are for embedded devices, smart TVs. Roku has an agreement for these ads on Roku TVs. And now I don't know which ones, but by going to settings, privacy, smart TV experience, you can disable that and it apparently will go away. It does not affect standalone devices.
Okay.
I'm just trying to see it. It's definitely a Sharp. I'm looking for anybody to say what model number. It's amazing that it's gone this long with Roku for this to start popping up, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing. Has it been going on so long? I've never seen
No,
it.
that's what I'm saying.
I have two Sharp Roku TVs. Never seen it.
No, my point was Rokus have been out and Roku TVs have been prominent for so long, and this is the first that we're really hearing about it. I'm surprised it took this long for something like this to pop up. I mean,
So it's probably something new.
Yeah,
Something
well-
that they're trying out with a manufacturer like Sharp. But
I'm looking at how many Roku TVs are in the marketplace. I mean, that's got to be Roku. You talk about Roku can probably demand a pretty penny for an ad like that.
Maybe they only could do it from a certain point forward because they had to include it in the EULA for the device when you first turn the TV on and it says you agree to the following circumstances. Prior to that, there was no way to do it, or they didn't include it in the EULA, or couldn't.
Apparently, there are more than 41 million TVs running Roku OS in the US. So
That's
yeah,
embedded in the
I
TV. You're
believe
not
that's
gonna-
what I think I'm understanding. So imagine what Roku can sell. In this case, it was
Jeez.
Sleep Number that they sold this to. Imagine what they could sell that to, saying, okay, your ad's going to be seen by 20 million users. That's a pretty penny for them to, I'm sure, sell.
It's the bed is the official bed of the NFL.
Well, that's going to be
That's
exact.
all.
You joke, but that's what
Oh, no, yeah.
ATSC 4.0 is going to allow stuff like that to happen.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to use this as a segue to talk about something that probably most of our listeners need at their home. There are two projects that you can run on a Raspberry Pi or on your PC that act as your local DNS for your internal system and block ads from any device. It's not foolproof, but it's DNS based, and usually those ads are served from an ad server. And so all of these ad servers, they're just blocked by these DNS services. Now, you don't necessarily even need to have a DNS inside your home. You can use something like OpenDNS and create filters there. But sounds like this is going to be the year of the ad blocker. And so start researching, what's their name? AdGuard and
Pi-hole.
Pi-hole, yeah. I use AdGuard, and I can tell you from using a cell phone, right? When I'm connected to my home Wi-Fi, which goes through AdGuard, I don't get a lot of ads in apps that are ad financed. And when I'm outside of home, I suddenly see these ads, and I always need to remind myself that at home I don't see them because they're automatically filtered. So sounds like if you're running a Roku TV, there's a solution. Start fixing up your DNS.
Is this something that you can run inside of Home Assistant?
Yes, AdGuard has
An add-on?
They have an add-on. Yeah, that's how I started up with AdGuard. I'm running now AdGuard outside of Home Assistant because it is fueling everything. It's also fueling my local DNS naming and stuff like that. So
Because I believe
it's a
so.
little-
My DNS is currently on my router where I have my A records and stuff like that. So I would. You're saying I could move some of that stuff over to AdGuard if I switch to that?
Yeah, so my router internally points to AdGuard internally for DNS. So yeah, and everything is configured on there.
Interesting.
Yeah, it has a very interesting interface. You can actually also block specific services. You don't want anybody in your home to use Netflix. You just checkbox there, and Netflix is out of the system. You don't want anybody using Amazon. There's like a list of services that they already know how to block. Yeah, and of course you can add categories, right? Like adult contents and stuff like that. Those lists are also updated by them, and it works very well.
I guess I can spin up a Docker instance with AdGuard.
Yeah. Now, about spinning a Docker instance or a VM, note that you must expose port 53, right? And you need all of the internals to point there. Otherwise, you're going to get to an it's always DNS issue, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Maybe
it's intricate, but it's worth it.
Well, maybe over the next couple of weeks, Gal, if you're interested, maybe we could do maybe I could set it, maybe I could install it before the show and then go through some of the configuration live on the air.
Sure.
What do you think of that, Amnon?
I was just going to suggest that.
Okay, well maybe
Yeah.
I'll get it set up over the next couple of weeks, and Gal and I will find a show, and we'll set up my instance, and then people can look at that. All right. Well, we are at that time of day again. Is there anything else that anybody's got before we roll out of here on a Sunday?
No, I just want to say thanks, Nick. This was a long time coming.
Yes. So,
Nice.
well, and if I tell you what, if Amnon pisses me off, if Amnon ever pisses me off, you're going to find another Computers 2K now running on a separate instance somewhere else on the internet, and we'll have
A fork distribution
of a couple of different shows.
It's probably going to be on Twitch.
It's gonna be like Leonard Skinner.
Yeah, it'll be to check out Nissan Communications 2 on Twitch. That'll be the new home. So thank you, thanks Amnon, thanks Spence, and thank you Gal, and we'll see you guys.
And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie, and Dina, Arlington, Micha, Eleanor, Sarid. Thanks everybody for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. And again, remember, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, Nick is on Wilmington's 980 The Wave, doing his daily news show, and also on 107.9 FM in Wilmington. But you can also listen to the recording on nickcraig.com, or you can, while it's live, you can also use your Echo device to listen to it. And on Tuesdays at 7 p.m., Nick and Brian do their infection podcast show about survival games. So 7 p.m. on Twitch. See you next week.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.